think I'm going to call us to order. So if you all want to just mute yourselves, except for our fearless leader, the president of our board, Tom Knabb, and I'll just ask Tom to do our official welcome.
Thank you, Jesse, and welcome everyone to the 2021 Preservation Buffalo Niagara Preservation Awards. We're very happy to have awards this year after we had to cancel last year's due to the COVID pause. We are here to celebrate those in our community who show their commitment to historic preservation by their efforts, with their money, and in brick and mortar. And we'd like to highlight the important work that's being done in preservation in Western New York. But the event itself is always a good, fun social event to see friends and colleagues in the business and who have these interests that we all share over a drink and a snack. Unfortunately, tonight is BYO. So I will raise a toast to our great nominees and all the attendees today, and especially our award winners, who will be announced very shortly. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Jesse to begin our program.
Thanks, Tom. I just wanted to quickly say thank you to our sponsors. Tonight, our Louis Sullivan presenting sponsor, Buffalo's Free Magazine. We're thrilled to have them as our presenting sponsor this year. And our H.H. Richardson sponsors, Boston Valley Terracotta, Buffalo Development, Morris Masonry Restoration, Preservation Studios, and Young and Wright Architectural. We really couldn't do the work that we do without you, our members who buy tickets to events like this, and then without our corporate sponsors. So we really appreciate all of that, and we're really excited to have everyone here tonight. So without much further ado, I'm going to ask Tia to start the official program.
Good evening, Preservation Buffalo Niagara. My name is Susan Hunt, and some of you may know me from my broadcast career in Buffalo, which started a long time ago at WGR Radio and eventually led me to sports reporting on Channel 2 and then on to host PM Magazine. Those were really, really fun times. You know, since then I've worked across the country for networks including Discovery, Fox, ABC, ESPN, HBO, PBS, and HGTV. It was during my time with ABC, I've got a great story to tell. I was the first female play-by-play announcer, but more importantly, I was the first female reporter to enter an NFL locker room, which happened to be the Buffalo Bills. So go figure, right? Actually, go Bills. My passion for television has taken me all over the globe and to cities and towns, small and large, including where I happen to be right now, in the lobby of a hotel in Dallas, Texas, on the set directing an episode of your favorite go-to-sleep show, House Hunters. Yeah, I know. And what house did they pick? You know, I have fallen in love with so many towns in America, but my heart has and always will belong to Western New York. And that's why I'm so honored to be with you tonight to celebrate the places that make our hometown so special. Now, I've been told that Preservation Buffalo Niagara has a tradition of asking attendees to share a local historic place that is really important to them. And at events like these, they usually do it via their name tags. Well, obviously, we don't have those this year, but I do want to keep the tradition alive. So I'm going to share with you a few places that are near and dear to my heart, and I invite you to join in. Using the chat function, please share a Western New York treasure that always makes your heart beat just a little bit faster. And to kick things off, I want to salute a place that in many ways helped to define my childhood, and that would be Memorial Auditorium, or as it was more affectionately known, the Aud. Now think about it. The Aud was a hall of memories, a true palace of performance, hosting the NHL, the NBA, of course the Sabres, the Bisons, the circus, political rallies, concerts. I mean, I remember skating there as a child on Sunday mornings before the big Sabres game that night. That was pretty cool. I also made popcorn in the basement with the concession stand ladies and then helped bring it upstairs. I saw Sinatra in the round and Neil Diamond lit up by 13,000 lighters. I remember my mother saw the very first concert there. It was Elvis in 1957. And because she arrived to the concert in a pink Cadillac, his fans thought he was in her car. I would have liked to have seen that, but I wasn't born yet. So this iconic structure, built in 1940, was considered a magnificent venue and anchored our downtown. So many were saddened when it was razed in 2009. Now, one demolition I would be very sad to see happen would be the demolition of good old Volker's Bowling Alley. You know, ask any true Buffalonian, and chances are they have a story to tell about Volker's. You know, bowling there and imbibing an adult beverage at one of the oldest bars in Buffalo is sort of a rite of passage. So it's hard to imagine the corner of Elmwood and Amherst just not being lit up by that glorious neon sign that beckons another generation to bowl. In this case, reimagining this space and giving it a well-deserved facelift would be a gift to the next generation. So with that, I want to thank Preservation Buffalo Niagara again for having me on this special night, celebrating Buffalo's history and the promise that lies ahead as we continue to save landmarks, large and small, that define our community. My sincerest congratulations to all the award winners. The work you do to preserve these places makes me so proud to be a hockey girl from beautiful Buffalo, New York.
Of Brutalism is directed by 3 Master of Architecture students at the University at Buffalo. The Instagram account originally started off as part of a studio project focused on the past, present, and future of the Earl W. Bridges Public Library in Niagara Falls, New York, designed by American architect Paul Rudolph. As these students delved more deeply into issues related to the style of brutalism, they identified the style to be underrepresented and set out to develop a project that brought attention to brutalist buildings not only as a means of design and social commentary, but as a way to engage the broader public in conversations regarding architecture. As a response to the internet's obsession with all things cats and cat humor, and the lay architecture audience's often misunderstanding of brutalism as an architectural style, the account aims to involve the public in conversations about brutalism and the future of brutalist buildings. We are delighted to applaud their fresh new perspective to the art of preservation by awarding them the Mary Talbert Award for Emerging Preservation Leader.
Hi, my name is Emily Battaglia.
I'm Michaela Sine.
And I'm Madeline Ong, and we're the creators of Cats of Brutalism.
We would like to personally thank Preservation Buffalo Niagara for nominating us for the Mary J. Talbert Preservation Award for Emerging Leaders.
We also want to thank our followers for their continued support, along with our professors Gregory Delaney and Brett Dobster, who helped us continue and start this page.
Thank you.
Buffalo Quarters Historical Society and Friends of Broderick Park have transformed Broderick Park into an International Freedom Memorial Park that utilizes the Niagara River to promote the history of the Underground Railroad in the Buffalo area, uncovering and sharing this site's rich history and increasing international awareness of Buffalo's role in the Underground Railroad as a last stop, where thousands of enslaved Africans who had escaped human bondage crossed the Niagara River in search of a better life. Thanks to their efforts, Broderick Park is a jewel in the City of Buffalo park system, steeped in international, national, and local history. Their continuing efforts have resulted in the park being designated a National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom site, in addition to a wealth of physical and interpretive enhancements to the site. Future plans include an ambitious public art initiative that will continue to add beauty to Broderick Park through art that reflects the importance of the site's history. We are delighted to present the Robert J. Cressy Award for Education, Outreach, and Planning to Buffalo Quarters and Friends of Broderick Park.
I want to thank you on behalf of Buffalo Quarters Historical Society for recognizing my mother's dream. As well, I want to thank Mayor Brown for his support and all of the other organizations that are keeping the legacy of our history alive. Thank you.
I just pray that those who come down to look at the water, to look around, to see what God has given us down here, the beauty of the world down here. I'm humbly grateful. My children grew up here, and it was nothing like it is now. And the most important thing is to be grateful for what it is now and pass it on, because God took good care of us and this place also. And I hope everybody remembers He's the one that put this here, and it was put here for us, and we must enjoy it.
On behalf of the Friends of Broderick Park, we would like to thank the organization for recognizing us for the work that we've done here in the park. It's a collaboration of a number of different groups and organizations that really made this happen. We work diligently together. It can't be done by one person, one group. So the collaboration has been awesome, just to make sure the park is being kept and remembered about the historical value of this park, being Broderick Park, the Underground Railroad. And we just want to continue doing the work that's necessary to make sure that the educational component is always thought about and continue to do the work that we need to do. So we're going to continue to beautify it, to make it safe, and to educate the people about the historical value of it. There's a number of groups that's involved. We have a list of them, one being Vision Niagara, which is very helpful and diligently been doing a number of different things down here. So the collaboration, the partnership with Barbara Rowe and her husband, which is Pete, believe me, we could not be able to do these things had it not been for those groups that's involved.
We've been working on this for a number of years. We first started with Friends of Broderick Park getting together probably 12 to 14 years ago. And then most recently, the last couple of years, George has been instrumental in getting us all activated again and really being on fire about the importance of this park and making sure that it shines for absolutely everybody, visitors, residents, everybody, because it's, again, historically so important, but it's also in terms of ecologically and environmentally very important. So we're really excited that our work is being recognized, and we really appreciate that.
I'm Christiana Limniadis, PBN's Director of Preservation Services, and I am here to guide you through a trivia extravaganza. This round, the winner will receive a $50 gift certificate to Stitch Buffalo, an inclusive space for refugee and immigrant women to create handcrafted goods and find economic empowerment. On to the question. National Historic Landmark status is a very special designation given by the National Park Service to historic properties that illustrate the outstanding aspects of American history and culture. Of the over 2,600 NHLs that exist in America, we have 14 of them right here in Western New York. One of those Western New York NHLs includes this institution, which was founded in 1874 as a teaching camp for Methodist Sunday school teachers.
Okay, everybody, first correct answer in the chat wins the Stitch Buffalo gift certificate, which of course you're always free to donate back to your favorite executive director, but you can also keep it for yourself. Let's see. So, a winner, Edward won Chautauqua Institute. That's correct. Oh, Diane, you were so close. And Ian, we will put the questions in the chat, but gotta be quick with this crowd. They're pretty smart. So, Edward, we will take care of you after the presentation and make sure that you get your prize. Congratulations, you were quick on that. There's 2 more of these coming up. So when you see Christy's face, get ready, put your thinking cap on, listen carefully, set down the glass of wine, and get ready to type. All right, back to the program. For preservation to be successful, we must have craftspeople who are able to care for our historic resources. SACRA, the Society for the Advancement of Construction-Related Arts, is a comprehensive 15-week career training program in carpentry and woodworking that provides skill building, work readiness, and job placement services to unemployed and underemployed Western New Yorkers. SACRA's mission is to provide hands-on, experiential, community-based learning in the building arts while creating inspiring, wonderful places. SACRA students work with tradespeople, artisans, artists, architects, apprentices, and others to design and build impactful projects that combine art, design, and construction, create wonder in the built environment, and empower people through creative action. Please help us congratulate SACRA on achieving the Harold Amblin Award for Preservation Craft.
Hi, I'm Dennis Marr. I'm the Executive Director of Assembly House 150 in Buffalo, New York. I'm speaking to you from our headquarters in the former Immaculate Conception Church at 150 Edward Street. We are so incredibly honored to receive the Harold Bellum Award for Preservation Craft from Preservation Buffalo Niagara. Thank you to Preservation Buffalo Niagara for your continued support and recognition of our efforts for stewarding the SACRA program. SACRA is a 12-week intensive training program in the building trades with an emphasis on job placement at the conclusion of the program. We are actually thrilled to be celebrating another SACRA graduation today. I want to thank all those who have been involved in this effort, most especially Tyler Heath, Quincy Kotzka, CJ Ties, Nick Wheeler, Kaz Garrison, the Assembly House 150 Board of Directors, and our volunteers. This work could not be possible without the generous support of the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, the John R. O'Shea Foundation, the First Niagara Foundation, and Alex Spofford Johnson and the Johnson family. Thank you so much for your generous support, your continued appreciation of our efforts.
Representing several local historic districts, Councilmember Mitch Nowakowski has shown tremendous leadership in his career on the Buffalo Common Council as a staunch advocate for preservation. Tackling the issues both legislatively and with innovative solutions to persistent preservation problems, the representative for the Fillmore District has shown willingness to bring stakeholders together to turn challenges into opportunities. His understanding of the ways that historic preservation has a positive impact on neighborhoods has led Councilmember Nowakowski to roll up his sleeves to address the opportunities for preservation that exist not only in the Fillmore District, but in the region. He represents the next generation of legislators who will ensure our history is preserved as the best way to move us forward to a brighter future. Congratulations, Councilmember, on winning the George K. Arthur Award for Preservation Leadership.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mitch Nowakowski. I represent the Fillmore District on the Buffalo Common Council, and I am grateful to be here with you all today. I want to congratulate Preservation Buffalo Niagara on 13 years of advocacy to identify, protect, and promote the unique architecture of Buffalo, connecting people to places they love in Western New York. It is an honor to be awarded for Emerging Preservation Leader from PBN. While my time as an elected official has been short, I've been able to bring people together to find solutions to ongoing preservation problems. My first initiative was to pass legislation extending demolition waiting period from 30 to 60 days. We've seen over and over again how the community rises to the occasion when a building ends up on the chopping block. This legislation gives the Preservation Board more time to review and issue an opinion on landmark applications preventing needless demolitions. I also work to create a one-of-a-kind receivership program to prevent demolition by neglect. By bringing together the law department, permits and inspections, PBN, residents on Cottage Street, and the housing court, this program allows a receiver to correct building code violations. Once work is complete, they can petition the court to get repaid, putting the owner on the hook for the cost of repairs. Using this model, we can save residential homes before the wrecking ball tears another hole in the fabric of our community. We know that the built environment isn't just buildings. They're homes where we create families. They're restaurants where we share a meal, and they're storefronts for a local business. I am proud to be an advocate for preservation in Buffalo, and I know that together we will build upon this work to make sure our history is preserved without keeping us stuck in the past. Thank you again for this honor. I look forward to the work ahead.
Hi, Christiana, ready for round 2 of trivia? This round, the winner will receive a $50 gift certificate to the Story Garage, located in Black Rock, an antique furniture store ready for you to thrift some of the most unique pieces in Western New York. Now on to the question. On September 14th, 1901, Theodore Roosevelt took the oath of office as President of the United States after the assassination of William McKinley at the Pan American Exposition. Good old Teddy took the oath of office right here in the city of Buffalo at the Ansley Wilcox House, which is on Delaware Avenue, and is a fine example of this architectural style.
Let's see. Oh, Greg, that's not the answer we're looking for. Any other guesses? Something century. I like that. Ian, I like that. Gothic, interesting. Oh, Tony, you're so close. Are we going to give it to him? Waiting for any. There you go. Okay, Tony is correct. Greek revival was the answer that we were looking for. And I totally forgot in the last one that Tia made me these fancy little cards so that you could see the building. That's how fun and innovative we are here at Preservation Buffalo Niagara. So congratulations, Tony, you are correct. You win the gift certificate. That's very fun. Okay, we will move on to the rest of our program. And there's one more chance. So you guys you're getting it. Prior to 2018, this century-old building, a slim two-story triple brick shell, had experienced neglect and was deteriorating in many areas. 2 large leaks in the roof had caused damage, windows were rotten, the rear wall brick was bulging due to years of water infiltration and freeze-thaw, and the ornamental millwork at the top of the front facade had blown off during a windstorm. The building was deemed not fit for occupancy. The planning and execution of the rehabilitation into residential and cafe space took place over 3 years. A main attitude underlying the design interventions is that change continues to occur in buildings through weathering, through repair, adaptation, and addition. The design component of the project is therefore considered open-ended and ongoing. In bringing the building back to a condition where it could be occupied and enjoyed, design interventions concentrated on the basic ingredients of any good space: increased natural light and air, a restrained interior aesthetic, and timeless, durable surfaces and materials. The material palette of the historic building was preserved, and elements in distress were repaired. The building's character was revived through the stripping away of elements that had been added in a hodgepodge manner over the past year. New elements inserted into the building do not pretend to be old, but are humble and respectful of the existing building's stature and presence. We are delighted to present the John E. Brent Award for Outstanding Project under 10,000 square feet to the project team at 577 Niagara Street.
Hi, it's Giles Cavan, owner of 577 Niagara Street, Buckminster Cat Cafe's building. Thank you very much to Preservation Buffalo Niagara for this award. It's a beautiful little building, and I'm super proud of what a big team actually created here. So, and I should mention that Molly Hutton, the owner of Buckminster Cat Cafe, invested a lot of time and money. John Banaszak, civil engineer, Rafailidis and Stephanie Davidson, the designers, did a fantastic job of envisioning and realizing the project. Carl Russo, who's head of CFR, Restoration and Construction, managed a lot of complexity, surprising amount of complexity for this size building. Bruce Mittelstedt built a beautiful patio out back that I think can sustain 100-mile-an-hour winds. Joe Doyle, John Spielman, and Todd Newbert did a fantastic job on tiles, carpentry, and roof, respectively. And so anyway, I feel gratified to be acknowledged. It's a lot of effort to get these little projects done, and thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Preservation Buffalo Niagara for recognizing the hard work, care, and love that went into bringing this beautiful building at 577 Niagara Street back to life as Buckminster's Cat Cafe. Under the direction of our talented designers, Stephanie Davidson and Georg Rafailidis, the space is now a light-filled oasis for both cats and people. A renovation that I believe respects the history and the integrity of the building while letting it shine in a new way. Back in 2017, when I first had the crazy idea of opening a cat cafe in Buffalo, my realtor, Lauren Kostek, brought me to a beautiful but rough building on Lower Niagara Street that she knew I was going to love, and she was right. A former barber shop with a somewhat notorious past, the modest-sized storefront was with room in the back for this beautiful catio where we're sitting right now was perfect. It's just what I wanted to transform into a contemporary yet charming cafe and cat adoption lounge. In addition to Stephanie and Georg, I would like to thank Carl Russo of CFR Construction and Restoration. A better contractor in Buffalo doesn't exist. John Spielman of Spielman Fabrication, whose craftsmanship is evident throughout the space in so many little details. And Giles Kavanaugh, 577 Niagara's owner, who didn't balk at all at the somewhat unusual proposition that he rent space in this building to a business that involves both food and cats. Thanks again to Preservation Buffalo Niagara for recognizing something that means so much to many of us involved. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Preservation is about more than protecting individual buildings. It is about protecting the special character of the places we love that are important to their communities. By providing permanent protection to land with significant conservation value, the Land Conservancy of Western New York provides a critical function in our preservation field. Their work ensures a future in which natural areas, working farmlands, wildlife habitats, and scenic beauties are cherished and protected as part of our overall community character. Significant achievements include the Stella Niagara Nature Preserve, Owen Falls Sanctuary, and their latest project, the River Line, utilizing an abandoned part of Buffalo's railroad history to create a new public space. Congratulations to the Western New York Land Conservancy on being awarded the Robert T. Coles Award for Neighborhood Conservation.
Hi everyone, I'm J. Jean Rose Burney, the Deputy Director at the Western New York Land Conservancy. I'd like to thank Preservation Buffalo Niagara and everyone else out there who made this award possible. On behalf of the staff, the board, our Executive Director Nancy Smith, Board President John Owen, and all of our members, thank you. Everything we've done, everything we've accomplished has been because of community, a community of people that have rallied together to save really important places. Stella Niagara, Owens Falls, Gallagly, College Lodge, Farms, Mossy Point. These places are really important for wildlife. They have old trees, birds, fish, water, but these are also really important places for people. These are places where people can walk outside. These are places that grow food. These are places that have incredible history, culture. And in each case, it took an entire community to save these places. I think during the pandemic, the importance of these places to people and community became even more obvious. When everything closed down, these are the types of places that we had left. This is where we could go and be with our family outside, in nature, on trails. And going forward, it's going to take a community again to try to save the other places that we need to save. Create the River Line in Buffalo, save the Allegheny Wildlands, and create the Western New York Wildway. So again, on behalf of everyone at the Land Conservancy, our entire community, thank you Preservation Buffalo Niagara for this award. I love what you do. Keep going.
This is my favorite tree. Ready for round 3? Hey, it rhymes, I'm a poet. Okay, back to this. This round's winner is going to get a $100 gift certificate to the Woodhouse Day Spa in Williamsville, where you can empower your well-being, renew your spirit, and feel your best. All right, question. Robert T. Coles, Buffalo's most prominent and respected architect, championed the use of public spaces as a means for achieving racial equality. His professional career started in 1960 when he was commissioned to build this public building, a building he had originally designed as part of his graduate thesis at MIT.
Okay, remember, first correct answer in the chat wins $100 to the Woodhouse Day Spa. Nope, Katie, you're in the right neighborhood.
Oh, we had an answer.
Oh, I didn't say, oh, Mike Puma. Oh no, before Mike was Gregory Delaney. Nice work there, pulling it out. Wow, you guys really did it. So this is the JFK Community Center, for those of you who aren't familiar. one of PBN's favorite buildings, frequently featured on our Mod Mondays if you follow us on the many social media channels. So congratulations, Greg. I hope you have a really lovely time at the spa, and we'll get on with our program. We're so excited to have with us here tonight Jonathan Moody, the president and CEO of the award-winning Columbus, Ohio-based architecture firm, Moody Nolan. Jonathan approaches architecture with a focused mission to bring transformational design to underserved communities, to educate and mentor underserved youth toward careers in architecture, and to become a visible, present servant in underserved communities. As a featured speaker at the 2021 Preservation Awards, he's going to help us probe the future of preservation practice concerning cultural and sustainable community planning, highlighting preservation projects across the country and right here in Buffalo. We're so excited to have you here, Jonathan. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. It's so good to be here. And I know here is a very relative term for many people in many places these days, but I hope you'll bear with me and bear with us for a few minutes to give us the space and the grace to, what I would say, tell a story, right? I think really so much of what preservation is two parts, at least the way I see it. It is, one part is the telling a story, and then the other part is preserving those stories. And I think that's kind of very important in this space, and particularly in this community. So I'll try to share my screen, and you may hear a second grader here and there. Sorry. Is it? Oh, did it work? Share. Oh, there's the button. Okay. Okay. So you should see my screen now. Yes. So it's good to be here today. This is actually. One of these images are, this is the image on the right is actually from School 22, the Abraham Lincoln School in Rochester, New York. That was a 1950s original building, and an addition is out in front that you can see. I'll say one of my reintroductions to the region was actually the Children's School of Rochester, which, helped, really did, kind of, the story for me personally, is about reflection, and it is about kind of coming back. My undergraduate degree is from Cornell University, and there's a introduction to architecture summer program that I participated in the summer before I started. And actually one of our first visits was, for a site visit, was actually to a Louis Sullivan church, that just so happened to be right down the street from this building. And I just could not believe, that, when we were awarded this project, driving around, that it kind of brought me back to those days of what that project means for so many different people. And so, and here we were at the original buildings in 1924, Martin B. Anderson. It was the school name. It was originally School 1. And there's this, interesting story that needed to be told about how, you could transform, this 1924 building into what needed to be, a forward-thinking modern school that did not have enough space. So how do we, and this image I always think speaks to the duality that we faced of, the 1924 building on the right. I love this, I always love the smokestack for what it means mechanically for all these buildings of the time period in the middle. And then, a modern edition on the left-hand side of the screen. And they actually face two different directions, one being the more public face, and the other being the more the neighborhood face. So this was a fun project to work on, and, tell the story of what all the different components meant. And, through that modernization effort, I mean, so much of what we found in this project was just, so many things that could not be replicated. And if anything, you see the image on the right, which is when you first come in, and, these old, wooden, aspects that needed to be restored. And then the image on the left is the entry, and the image on the right was really, we said, hey, back in 1924, they taught differently, but part of the story is what would it be like. So this is actually, we call it the legacy classroom that we actually brought back, to the original state, restoring every detail, including the ceilings and the fixtures, to the 1924, so that this would always be a part of the story of this building. And even some of my favorite things, which the image on the left is the library image, that is one of these unique spaces that can't be replicated, and when we approach work now, and was part of the story of what needed to be preserved. And then the image on the right, was the story of how this building would be occupied by a new school. So it is now the Children's School of Rochester, and School 15 was moving into School 1, the School 1 building. But they had these old pieces. You see the glasswork there from their school that they told a part of their story, and they said they wanted to find a way to see if we could preserve that. So this is actually, this is a unique learning classroom that kind of is at the corner of where the old and the new intersect. And so these images that you see, this glasswork was actually taken, from the School 15 building that would be taken down, and brought over to the new building to tell a part of that story. So I get so excited to talk about these stories, and so this is because it gives context to conversation, and talking about the whys of what our past has been and where we're going. So this is actually a project in Indianapolis, Indiana. It is the Madam C.J. Walker Theater. That it's a triangular shaped building that's right at the corner of a major intersection that points right towards downtown Indianapolis. And this is also a 1920s building, was original, and it really, part of the story was Madam C.J. Walker was one of the first Black millionaires in the entire country. Believe it or not, she was one of the first millionaires in the country. And she had a unique idea about what a mixed-use facility could be. And at the time, that was a kind of very unique story to be told around, the idea that you could use, a spectacle or a theater and combine it with retail and office and, education space was a unique story to be told at the time. And if you pay close attention, I think you can see my pointer down here at the bottom, was activity at the street. And it's funny because she was such an innovator at the time. Conversations around what mixed use projects need to create vibrant communities that are active at the street front. That was one of her most important aspects of the project. But over time, this whole thing got covered in brick, and the only thing that really remained was the front entry. But when we looked at what the future of this would be, both from a cultural standpoint and just an activity standpoint, we knew that it was important to bring back that transparency and that visibility at the street. And part of it was before a theater or an event happened, there's the pre-function space, and what was uncovered through time was that this space that you see out here that looks down toward downtown Indianapolis is the coffee pot. It was the place to see and be seen, where hey, it wasn't just a hey, you happened to just come see a show, but people had to know that you were coming to see a show. So to open that up again and bring it back to that to its splendor was an exciting story to be told about the project, but also fitting in with the original vision of Madam Walker for the area, and just for her innovative approach to mixed use. Now, this is a personal story for me, but sometimes telling the story is just about uncovering ideas, and sometimes you uncover not necessarily not necessarily because it has to stay that way, but just for a realization. So this is in Charleston, South Carolina, and this is for the International African American Museum. And it's different than the National Museum, but you see the site highlighted here, and you see this red line, kind of, original map from, back in the, from, slave trade days, to be direct, to the modern times that are now and what is there. The lines still exist. And the goal of this project is to tell the story that's international. And even coming back to some of the story of, my personal background, when I got to Cornell, one of the questions that people asked me that caught me off guard was, where are you from? And I'd say, well, I'm from Ohio, right? And they said, but where's your family from? And I'm like, well, as far back as anybody can remember, it's, Ohio and West Virginia. And they say, yeah, but where's your family from? And it was always caught me off guard. My family, we're descendants of slaves. I don't know where my family's from. And as you know, most New Yorkers can tell you, the great melting pot, people say they're from, their family's Nigerian, or they're Haitian, or they're Jamaican, or they're Trinidadian. And that was a new cultural experience for me. And I, frankly, was sad about it, that I couldn't tell you where my family's from. But this site is Gadsden's Wharf, which is 40% of all African Americans in the U.S. Can trace their ancestry through this site. And so this is about telling a story of, not necessarily national, but international experience and identity for many people. So, we dug down and traced where the original line was of Gadsden's Wharf. And, given the conditions of the site, we dug it up to recognize it, but we couldn't keep it. And it was really about preserving the story of where that line is in the landscape and what it means to create this kind of moment under the building. And above it is the Genealogy Center, where you can actually, trace your family's roots and do some research to learn the story of where your family may have came from. And above it is, that experience of, what I call maybe a story of where you can reflect, where you can sit and look out across the ocean and reflect on what it means. The moment of power for me, though, is so much of this is in information. So the Genealogy Center, the archives is already open, and you can begin to, trace your roots or kind of look up family genealogy there. But even recently, from my family, we were able to trace our family roots to our oldest ancestor, Willis Spearman, and he was from Newberry, South Carolina. And when we look through the directory on the site, part of our ability to tell that story is truly an empowering moment. In all likelihood, we were guessing at that point, but Newberry is not so far from Charleston, but we were guessing, our ancestors came through Gadsden's Wharf. But what we found when I looked actually in the records, we did find the contract in the records that said Willis Spearman, and our ancestors did come through Gadsden's Wharf. And the first ever record of his history and the story that needed to be preserved and retold was of his freedom. So this is actually the document from the Genealogy Center of my eldest ancestor, of saying that the first ever record of him was when the contract for his freedom that you can see here in 1866. So an exciting story to tell and be preserved on the site that actually contains a new building. And so, here we are in Buffalo, and we're just in the beginnings of listening about what those stories can be. And I know, we're talking about preservation awards, and it is something that is award worthy and should be noted and told, because it's an important job as we look at the Michigan Street area, the Heritage Corridor site, and really listen to what the stories are in that community. And really knowing, so many important moments exist, so many stories that are there to be told and have to be uncovered. And we're excited because we're just at the beginning of what that means, but we know that there will be some great things that come out of it. And even in that early process that we've seen some of the imagery and just things that people just kept that each of these items, each of these things have a story to be told. And so much of the work around preservation is telling those stories. the first Black History Radio Museum and other things. But it's exciting to be a part of it. It's exciting to talk about these stories. And there's so many great things that are happening in Buffalo and around the country that we're at a time that I think it's critical to make sure we get it right in terms of telling stories and preserving stories. So I'll stop sharing for a bit. I hope everybody's wait, stop sharing. There we go. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was so interesting. And that's kind of crazy, finding your own family's history in a place that was, obviously personal on one level, but was also a work project, and then being able to actually trace your own family's history right to that spot. That must have been quite a moment for you and for your family. And I'm glad that you have that to pass along to your children.
Yes.
And I think that's so much of the work that we all, that got us into, I think we all have these personal stories of how we got into doing the work that we do. And I wanted to say, before we got too far into it, congratulations on the AIA Firm of the Year award. That must be pretty exciting. And I'm interested in, that award is sort of follows on a history of awards for the firm. And I am curious, how the firm came about, your family's connection, and how you got into architecture and your own personal story there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. So my father started the firm in 1982, around the time I was born, believe it or not. I hate to keep saying story over and over again, but part of his story was that he didn't feel that he had peers that he could look to in the profession. There's still very few and far between African American architects, and he felt that it was important to start a firm because he didn't have any examples to follow of saying, oh, I could join this firm or that firm. So he said, well, I'll start a firm. And so he started the firm around that time, about 40 years ago. And it's a story that's continued to grow over the years, that, we kind of, really built the firm on being responsive to the different communities that we serve. Even starting out doing, like, say, church work or libraries and schools. But they serve a very specific audience and community. And growing our firm to be very diverse, to really reflect those that we serve, just kind of happened throughout the years, at all scales, in different works types and different uses. I remember he won the Whitney Young Award in 1992, and I remember I grew up in a house where we were constantly visiting buildings and doing other things. I just thought it was a family vacation to Chicago, and I didn't realize the significance of what he was going through at that time. I think when we look to what we've been and what we've grown and been able to achieve over the years, and what the Firm Award means, it was just an exciting realization of not necessarily, because the Firm Award is not an individual award, and it's not an individual project award. It's about a history of work. One of the things we said, right after it was announced, and it was just an honest reflection. It was this is an us award, and us is so many people. Us was, is all the staff members that worked over the years to help us reach this point. And it's all those people who had such unique stories to tell, in their projects. And for the AIA to say, hey, the highest honor of the profession is an us award, not just, for say, some projects you might only see in magazines, but, hey, these small efforts here and there, libraries and schools and churches that even become office buildings and stadiums or convention centers or other things are important stories to tell, and they reflect the highest values of the profession. So that was, incredible to hear, kind of 40 years of, acknowledgement. I think it sets the tone for the stories that will come in the future in terms of, the values of the profession.
That's awesome. And you guys have done a lot as a firm, not just in your individual projects, but also giving back to the communities that you work in, that you're located in. And I was especially intrigued by the house project that you did. And I wondered if you wanted to, talk to our attendees at all about how that project came about and what's happening there.
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of interesting perspective on how it came about and what it means. I still kind of go to, I still think there was a point where my dad, between Christmas and New Year's, I think he had too much time at home to watch HGTV. And
happens to the best of us.
Yes, and I think it might have also been a combination. I think I attribute it in part to a combination of that, and then kind of reflecting on the year, at the end of the year, and looking at what we were going to do for the coming year. And I think also what kind of happens around that time of year is sometimes people send letters of asking for help or other things, and we could trace kind of a problem, and I think problem is probably the right word, around affordable housing and homelessness and community. In Columbus, Ohio, there's, I think, a need of like over 54,000 affordable units are needed. And it's like, well, no, we can't do that. And there's people sending us letters, asking for help. And when we look at what we were spending our dollars on, we're like, well, what do we really have to show for it in terms of saying, oh, I'm going to, pay to participate in a golf outing. And he just said, no, we're not doing that this year. We're going to build a house. And we're going to give it away. That was what he said. And so I kind of like, oh man, how are we going to pull this off? And what are we, and what we saw through the process, I think reflects, kind of a basic challenge around human psychology. And I know that sounds like really, but when you think about 54,000 units, or just, even the broad topic of homelessness, it can be overwhelming, and it is. And it tends to put us, mentally in a space of, paralysis by analysis. If you think too much about the biggest of the big problems, you can't solve or do anything, right? And you feel helpless. You feel like, I can't do anything. But when you can break down the problem of not all of it, but I'm just going to do this one thing, right? You can get your hands around that. So when we as architects could put our hands around, it's just one house, right? And then, so the next steps became, well, how do we pay for this and fund this? And, the metaphor my dad uses that I echo is, it's a drop in the ocean, but it, can begin to create ripples and waves. And what we saw through it is that, yes, one house, we can donate architectural services and we can contribute some of the funds, but we can ask partners and peers and friends that say, hey, can you help with this or help with that? And, what we quickly found out is, no, I can't build the whole thing, but I could donate site work. I could donate landscape services. I could donate, MEP services. We're working for a corporate office building for a roofing company. They said we could donate roofing materials. We could donate siding. Working for furniture company says, hey, I could donate some furniture to the project. And that's where we began to see the waves of people saying, no, I can't solve the whole issue, but I can contribute to the conversation. And, it was as I think, we called it the legacy house, or we're calling it that. Because it's part of, as we're looking at, at that time, say 36, 37 years of practice, but what's going to be our continued legacy. And I think what my dad wanted to do, what I don't think I know, was, to continue to create those lasting legacies. And no, we can't control everything or solve everything, but we can greatly contribute to some of these conversations through it. So we have 11 offices. And he says our commitment, and we're on track. But as you know, architects are terrible when it comes to schedules. And I would say one thing I learned through it, we are the worst clients, the worst. I would never want to work for another architect. But to build a house in each city each year is the goal. So, so Columbus is finished. Nashville is under construction. And we're starting planning conversations in Chicago, and we'll continue to take it one house at a time, one community at a time.
That's so amazing. I love that story, and I hope our architecture friends here in Buffalo are listening to that story. And it's interesting, we had a panel last week, and we were talking about demolition in Buffalo, and specifically demolition of houses. And one of the panelists kind of sort of said, well, with, you know, Buffalo, as you know, has is similar to a lot of communities of our era, a very strong history of racialized disinvestment and redlining. And so we've had quite a vacancy issue in the city. And one of the panelists kind of take on it was, well, it's so overwhelming when you look at, you know, 17,000 vacant units. What other option is there except to sort of demolish large swaths of our community? And one of the sort of challenges I put back out there was, well, if you look at it as 17,000 units, yes, it's so easy to get overwhelmed by the magnitude of that problem and not be able to see a solution. But if you work in a particular neighborhood with particular folks, and you start to look at maybe a dozen vacant units, and what are the needs in this community, and how, you know, it becomes a problem to be solved, as opposed to something that makes you just kind of want to go to bed and pull the covers over your head a little bit. So I appreciate that perspective. And you know, we all just need to do what we can. We can't all do everything, but you know, I think there's a lot of that. And that kind of brings me to something you and I had an interesting conversation, and I think it applies to the work in the Michigan Street corridor, as well as, you know, to the museum in Charleston, which is, how do you honor a place when a lot of the physical fabric is no longer there? And in a traditional sort of preservation approach, you know, you're sort of proscribed by those material conditions, and that sort of becomes the starting point or the basis for the work. But when you look at a place like Michigan Street, where you know, so many important places have already been demolished, but it doesn't diminish the importance of that place to people and to our imaginations and to the history of our community. And so there has to be a way of storytelling that, you know, protects the fabric we have left, but also you know, reimagines how do you tell that story for future generations. And I'm interested in your approach on that. And, you know, I know you're just starting the work on Michigan Street, so but I'm interested in how you think you might be moving forward on that process, or you know, how that plays into your work.
Yeah, so I think so much of it is not, again, it's trying to find the balance between like trying to solve it, right, and trying to listen. Right. And we know that the right answer is often somewhere, call it in between, right? In between, like listening to what's important and trying to come up with creative solutions. Right. And architects, we suffer from, you know, we like to build things, we like to make things, and we like to just come in and say, oh, I know how to do it, and just doing it. And it's like, no, we need to stop and listen. And some of the scales to it, you know, as you talk about, you can get to 17,000 vacancies, right? But you can start with kind of, you know, singular vacant lots, right? Or just singular, you know, vacant homes. But it's all on the scale of, say, it can be on the scale of like 1 or 2 neighborhoods. And I think one of the things that is part of our society's challenge now is, you know, even in this last year and a half, none of the fundamentals have changed. Like there's been this pandemic that's caused, and social unrest that's caused massive shifts in people's thinkings. But my concern is that none of the fundamentals have changed. So, and I can just sense, you know, we're starting to get back in this habit of like, well, we were on this path before, let's just kind of get back to it. And it's like, well, no, we do have to stop and think, you know, we could lose a story of an entire neighborhood by just kind of, you know, if we're not thoughtful in how we approach it. So, and I do think, you know, you can preserve a story of an entire neighborhood by thinking of it like one lot, one thing at a time. And sometimes preserving that story is about building something new. And I think our challenge is to find that balance between what can be kept and should be kept. And part of keeping it could be say, hey, you know, if you take like a neighborhood block and say there's only 12 homes and there's another, you know, 20 lots that are open, but part of preserving those 12 homes might be infilling with, 20 new homes, right? And you'll be able to keep the story of those 12. So I think part of it is, there's just a reality that some things are too expensive, not worth it, or even too difficult, right? From it's falling apart, it's more of a danger to preserve. But we do have to be mindful and intentional about keeping, something, right? So that, when we come back in 20, 30 years, when we're talking about the next generation, and how do we continue to tell a story, that we don't lose the story of a whole block or a whole neighborhood in that approach. And it's a everyday thing. It's not one way to solve it all. It's individual conversations about how do we preserve stories, how do we tell stories, and how do we be sure, because I do think part of it too is, there's meaningful conversations around sustainability and equity that says if we can keep certain things, right, that is more sustainable and more equitable than just raising and starting over. So.
Yeah, that's super helpful and interesting. And just while we're on the Buffalo topic, I know you're just getting started here, although you do have a history here. I know this isn't your first time working in the region. What are you excited about for the Michigan Street Corridor? What are you excited about for Buffalo? What should we all be excited about as we look to the future of our community?
Yeah, I think just excited about. I think no matter what, there will be growth, right? I think that's kind of and I think I'm excited about the fact that that there's going to be so many good things happening, and there's a very great mindset that people have around being open to what that could be, and not saying, oh, it's got to be this or it's got to be that, or you got to decide that. But I think there's going to be a lot of growth. There's going to be I think a lot of things that I won't say that become we get back to a certain thing, but I'd say things that become normalized, that are exciting in the future of Buffalo. So.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. We so appreciate you joining us here tonight. And to your point, it's a very strange. We miss all of our friends and all of our members in person. Usually this event involves a lot of cocktail drinking and chatting with people you might not have seen in many months. And so we're sad to lose that part this year, but it's really given us the opportunity to have some folks come and talk to us who we might not have been able to have, in person. And we appreciate your time so much, and you coming and speaking to us. And this is a great conversation. I know I have a lot of takeaways from it, and I'm sure the folks attending the awards tonight will have a lot of takeaways from it. So thank you so much, Jonathan. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and congrats to all the award winners. So, yeah.
Niagara Street is a 3-story, 33,700 square foot historic adaptive reuse project in the heart of downtown Niagara Falls that creatively combines 4 buildings built between 1908 and 1911 into one contiguous project featuring ground floor commercial space and 17 residential units. This was accomplished with the addition of a 1-story connecting atrium structure, several new openings in the existing load-bearing masonry walls, and new staircases and corridors. This project presented significant challenges with respect to floor heights, structural stability of the existing buildings, and code compliancy that resulted in a unique, dynamic space that blends modern amenities with historic charm and saves some of the last remaining Italianate buildings in Niagara Falls. For that, we are delighted to award them the Louise Bethune Award for Outstanding Project over 10,000 square feet. Congratulations.
My name is Christian Campos, and I'm the president of TM Montante Development. Thanks to everyone at Preservation Buffalo Niagara. I am delighted to accept the 2021 Louise Bethune Preservation Award for the 616 Niagara project in downtown Niagara Falls on behalf of TM Montante Development. TM Montante Development is inspired by the building momentum in Niagara Falls, and we are grateful and honored to play a part in the growth and evolution of this great city with the 616 Niagara project. 616 Niagara's dynamic, mixed-use space represents a rebirth of 3 beautiful historic buildings and ensures that they will live on for generations to come. Vacant structures have become vibrant again, housing new residents and workers that now call downtown Niagara Falls and 616 Niagara their home and their place of work. We are thrilled to have worked with a great team on 616 Niagara, especially Niagara University, whose Niagara Global Tourism Institute and Trek co-working space occupy the entire first floor of the project. Our public partners also played a huge role in making 616 Niagara a reality. Thank you to the City of Niagara Falls, Empire State Development, the Niagara County IDA, and the State Historic Preservation Office. I'd also like to thank Montante Construction, Five Star Bank, HHL, National Grid, and Preservation Studios. Like all historic preservation projects, 616 Niagara was challenging and complex, but we all worked together as a team in partnership and collaboration to get it done. We are proud to have added to the growing momentum in Niagara Falls, and we hope that many historic preservation projects will follow 616 Niagara in the Cataract City in the years to come. Thank you.
The silos at Elk Street are a testament to creativity and devotion to remembering our past to build our future. This project involved converting the site of the former William A. Kreiner & Sons Malting Company buildings into office and residential space, along with space for a brewery. Built between 1894 and 1936, the buildings were abandoned for more than 30 years before Young and Wright Architectural decided to reclaim them as the site of their offices. In order to make the buildings inhabitable, Young and Wright repaired the brick walls, cleaned the concrete silos, replaced the roof, installed new entrances, and reinstalled windows in the existing masonry openings. While much of the graffiti was painted over, the firm kept some of the work of local artists. The drying house, which was the oldest structure, was restored brick by brick. Much of the molting machinery was also kept, including one of the original steeping tanks that was turned into a think tank, and 5 circular ceiling clouds with corresponding areas of gymnasium flooring that were installed where the tanks had been located. Rather than changing the buildings to suit a new office, according to co-owner Sean Wright, we are putting an architectural office into a museum dedicated to the malting process. Congratulations to Young and Wright on receiving this award.
My name is Jerry Young, and we're standing in our silos for the Young and Wright Architectural Office, and we'd like to thank a couple of people. First of all, our staff, because they inspired the design, and we'd also like to thank all the contractors and the city for their help.
And I'm Sean Wright, and I'd like to add thank you to Preservation Studios for all their help, and the State Historic Preservation Office, and the Kreiner family, who was instrumental in not only starting this malt house, but helping us find some of the artifacts over the years.
We really do appreciate it, and we like the industrial heritage that we brought back to Buffalo. It also brings back beer, so beer, Buffalo, things we enjoy.
We started this project in 2015 when we bought the building from the city auction. Jerry and I started cleaning out the building in 2016, with most of the construction taking place in 2017. We moved our offices in here in 2018 and continued to renovate the space to add a barber shop, some additional offices, some residential spaces in all the way up through 2020. And we're planning to continue. There are still spaces on our 5th floor and on our ground floor. We've been working actively to try to find a distillery or a brewery that might want to take advantage of the heritage of this building and the unique location for it just outside of Larkinville, and to help us to continue to rehabilitate and revive this neighborhood.
thank you everybody for coming. We hope, I know we're kind of all sick of the virtual world, and we're certainly excited to get back together in person with you guys, with our members, with everybody. But we hope that you enjoyed this event and that it wasn't too painful for a virtual one. I wanted to just give a shout out to Get Fokus'd Productions, Itina Fareed Cook, who actually put together the video that you watched, and there were a lot of moving parts there, and she did an incredible job. So I just wanted to give her a little plug. And I wanted to thank Susan Hunt, SEM girl, and Buffalo native, who's now a citizen of the world, but who loves Buffalo so much and was so gracious to do that introduction for us. And Jonathan Moody. I'm so excited that he's working in Buffalo. I think the work that he's doing is incredible. And we're so excited to have him here and part of this. And I want to thank the PBN Board of Directors and then just offer a really big congratulations to all the winners tonight. It was so hard. There were so many great projects that have happened in the last few years, and you guys just people were super excited to hand out these awards to you. These projects are really meaningful, and you guys really do make our community the special place that it is. So we're just thrilled to be able to recognize you. And so I hope everybody has a good rest of the evening, and hopefully we will all see you again in person at next year's awards. And I think Tia put the program in the chat and emailed it to you, so that all the information that you have here is in the chat. And we will get this up on our YouTube channel if you want to share with your friends and family, or put it, link to your own social media. So all that'll happen in the next few days. So have a lovely long weekend, and thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night.